Here's a story for you, written as a debate between David Wood in his past as a religious atheist and David Wood now as a Christian, showing the contrast and the truth of being fearfully and wonderfully made. David Wood, the debate between his past and present. The stage is set in a quiet study lined with books. Two figures sit across from one another. One is young David Wood, hardened, cynical, convinced of his atheism and resentment toward God. The other is older David Wood, calm, steady, a follower of Jesus Christ who has endured suffering yet found truth. Opening exchange. Atheist David, past. So here we are. You've convinced yourself that some invisible God wrote a book and stitched you together in the womb. Do you not realize how absurd that is? Human beings are nothing but products of blind chance, molecules bouncing around. Why cling to ancient myths when science explains us? Christian David, present. I once thought as you do. I told myself I was nothing more than atoms and impulses. But the truth is this. Science can describe how, but it cannot explain why. It cannot explain the meaning behind existence or why even in your rebellion you wrestled with purpose. Psalm 139 says, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. Deep down you knew you weren't just random dust. On morality, atheist David. Morality is nothing but survival instinct. We're programmed by evolution to care for our kind. There's no higher law, just human preference. And I choose to live as I want. Christian David. And where did that lead you? To violence, to emptiness, to destruction. Without God, morality is just opinion. Hitler's opinion versus Mother Teresa's opinion. Who decides which is right? But if God exists, then there is an unchanging standard outside of us. That's why you feel outrage at injustice. Why you can't help but sense that evil is real. Romans 2:15 says God's law is written on our hearts. Even when you denied him, your conscience betrayed you. On purpose and identity, atheist David. You call it identity, I call it biology. We're just advanced primates. Once we die, it's over. Nothing more. Christian David. Yet you wrestled with the question of why your mind and heart longed for more. Why the hunger for truth, for love, for meaning? If you were just chemicals, you wouldn't care. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says God has set eternity in our hearts. That's why you could never escape the pull toward something greater. You weren't made for nothingness, you were made for God. The turning point, atheist David. Then why the suffering? Why the pain I went through? If God is real and I am wonderfully made, why create me broken? Christian David. Because brokenness is the reality of sin in this world. But God himself entered into our suffering through Jesus Christ. On the cross, he bore our pain and sin so we could be healed. You once tried to destroy yourself, believing life was pointless. But when you met Christ, you discovered your worth wasn't in your strength or intelligence, it was in being loved by the one who made you. Closing words, Christian David. You are not an accident. You were not made to waste away in hatred and despair. You were made in the image of God, fearfully, wonderfully, loved beyond comprehension. That's why I left behind the lies of atheism and embraced the truth. For in Christ I found not only forgiveness but also identity, purpose, and eternal hope. Atheist David sits in silence, unable to answer. The arguments he once wielded now seem hollow, shadows of the truth. Slowly he lowers his head, confronted not only by logic but by the undeniable presence of grace.